How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Vav, Daf 6 of Masechta Sanhedrin. Okay, we got a lot. This is a big page. This one might take a while because also I want to get kind of far on Zayin Amud Aleph. I want to get to like the 2 dots, 4 lines into the wide lines of Zayin Amud Aleph. So. Got a lot to do. I think it should be relatively interesting. Okay, here we go. So I think, if I remember correctly, we got up to Daf Hey Amud Beis, like 10 or 15 lines from the bottom. Gufa Amar Shmuel. So Shmuel said, Beis Shadanu Dineim Din. Oh wait, 1 second. Okay, so again, Gufa Amar Shmuel, Beis Shadanu Dineim Din. So if 2 people judged, so it works. But it's called a bezdin chatzuf. So meaning, you need 3 judges. Okay. What if 2 judges judge? So says Shmuel, okay, said it. But the evidence works. But I mean, it's nothing. Nothing to be too excited about. But shenikra bezdin chatzuf. They call it chutzpahdik bezdin. That they're judging with just 2 when really you need 3. Yosef of Nachman, v'ka'amelo shmaita. Now Rav Nachman was sitting and saying over this teaching of Shmuel that Shnaim Shadanu Dineim Din El Shnikrish Bezdin Chatzuf. Ezvei Rave asked the question of Nachman. Ezvei Rave of Nachman. Afilu Shnaim Mizakin or Shnaim Mechayvin. So if you have a bezdin of 3, and 2 say innocent, or 2 say guilty, Vechad Omer Ni Yodea, and the 3rd Chveis Nish. 3rd he says beats me. I don't know. I can't say innocent. I can't say guilty. So what do? Yosifu aden. So add judges. But v'isa la'avu kishnayim shadanu. But if what Shmuel is saying is correct, that if 2 people judge, it works. It's called a bezdin chatzuf, but it works. So when you have 3 judges, one of them says that they don't know, the other 2 say either guilty or innocent. So then let's just go based on them. So 2 people are saying guilty, 2 people are saying innocent. Let's rely on that. Technically speaking, even if they would have started with 2, it technically works. Here they started with 3. One of them says that they don't know. The other 2 agreed. So let it just be considered like a bezdin of 2 and say, okay, fine, it works. Why do you have to add more judges? So Shani Yosim to Meikara Data Tlasi ECV. Well, it's a little different because since initially they started with 3, so therefore we want to kind of maintain it as a bezdin of 3. We don't want to kind of say, well, okay, we'll just treat it as a bezdin of 2 right now. Here we're talking about where they did not sit down initially with 2 judges. Forget. Here they're talking about they did not sit down initially with 3 judges. They sat down initially with 2 judges, and we're saying, okay, it works, but they're called a bezdin chatzuf. Eisvei Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel Omer. But we have a question. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Hadin bishloshu pshara bishnaim. Oh, I believe this is the first place that we're seeing pshara. So a judgment is with 3 judges. Now pshara, like arbitration, is with 2. I think it's 2 judges, be'etzem, right? So arbitration is be'etzem, right? Meaning a judgment, right? Din is be'etzem black or white. You're guilty, you're innocent. You have to pay, Reuven, you have to pay Shimon $1,000. Reuven loses, Shimon wins. Pshara is that Reuven and Shimon, right? And it doesn't go to court, right? I mean, it's not like they're going to say, Reuven owes Shimon $1,000. No, we're not doing that. There's no verdict by a pshara, by an arbitration. Reuven and Shimon, outside of court, make or I guess outside of the context of a regular court case, they say, look, they come to an understanding. They come to an agreement, and they say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And they make a plan. And they agree to it. Without relying on the judges to say, you're innocent, you're guilty, Reuven and Shimon work out a deal that they can work with. And that would be with 2 judges. I guess 2 judges would kind of be... 2 judges would kind of, be... We're going to learn about it a little bit later, but be present for that. Okay. And the strength of pshara is stronger than that of a din. Because when you have two judges in a din, it's irrelevant, right? Even after the verdict, the two parties can say, you know what, forget it. We don't want to, we take it back, right? The verdict isn't really official because you need three judges. Two judges is not enough. But by a arbitration, on the other hand, by a pshara, once the arbitration was done in front of two judges, it's valid. It's done. It's official. They can't renege. So pshara is stronger than din in that two judges is enough for pshara, whereas it's not enough for din. You need three judges for din. So what do we see? So we see that two judges does not work for din. So how could Shmuel say that two judges does work? Okay, it's called the Bezin Chassid, but Shmuel says at the end of the day, two judges for a din technically work. Yet over here we're saying that two judges work for pshara, but not for din. And if you're going to say, well, maybe the rabbis argue with Reb Shimon Gamliel. This was Reb Shimon Gamliel's opinion, right? What do we say? We said Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer hadin bishlosha upshara b'shnayim b'yav koach pshara b'koach din sheshnayim b'alidin nechol nachzulin sheshnayim also pshara in b'alidin nechol nachzulin. So I reread the whole thing. But the point is that that's the opinion of Reb Shimon Gamliel. So maybe you'll say, but the rabbis argue. So Reb Shimon Gamliel says that two is irrelevant, is not enough for din. But maybe the rabbis argue with Reb Shimon Gamliel and say that two does work for a din, and Shmuel holds like the rabbis. But that can't be. Rababo says Shnaim Shadanu L'Divrei in din Ein Din. Rababo says that if two people judge a case, everyone agrees Ein Din Ein Din, that it's irrelevant. So apparently everybody agrees that two judges do not work. So how could Shmuel be saying two judges does work, just that it's called the Bezin Chotzuv? So, and for Tikumar, Gavra Karamas, 1 second, your big proof is coming from Rababo. The fact that Rababo says that everybody agrees that two judges by din is irrelevant. And because Rababo says that, therefore it's a question on Shmuel. Rababo is an Amora, Shmuel is an Amora, they disagree. Rababo says that everybody agrees that two judges does not work for din. Shmuel does not see things that way. He says that that's only the opinion of Reb Shimon Gamliel, but the rabbis would say that two judges does work, just that they're called the Bezdin Chotzuv. Okay, fine. Now friends, remember something important that we just read. I'm just telling you it's going to be important for later. So Reb Shimon Gamliel says that you need three judges for a din and two judges for a pshara. Just remember that, because later on we're going to see the opinion of Reb Meir, who says you need three judges for a pshara, and of, I don't remember who said, the Chacham, I think, say you need one judge for a pshara. But anyways, okay. But I just want you to remember that Reb Shimon Gamliel's opinion says you need two judges for pshara. Fine. Now, Gufa Amr Rababo, we just said that Rababo says, Shnaim Shadanu Dine Mominis, the Divrei HaKol Din Din. So we just said that according to Rababo, if two people judge Dine Mominis, and they recall in Din Din, everybody agrees two people judging Dine Mominis is irrelevant. Aser Reb Abba L'Rababo, Reb Abba asked the Kashan of Rababo, Donis Hadin, Vizika Esachayev, that if a single person, and if a single hedjit, if a single hedjit, Rashi says, Donis Hadin, b'mumche leke l'meimar. And Tani Sefer by Mumche Lebezin, and Donis Hadin Yechidi Mashma. So you have a hedjit be'etzim who, where am I? Ezra Reb Abba L'Rababo. Donis Hadin, if you have a yochid mumche, you have a yochid hedjit, you have one hedjit who judges a case. V'zika esachayev, v'chiyev esazakai, and he made a mistake. He says that the guilty person was innocent, or fakert, that the innocent person was guilty. Times atar, tiras atame. He said that which is pure was impure, or that which is impure was pure. Mashe also asui, that which he has done is done. Mishalami Beso, and he has to pay out of pocket. So we see the Masha also. So you have, even though it's not three judges, right? I mean, Rabbi Baba says, Shnaim Shidanu, the Divrei Kol Ein Dinei Din. But over here we seem to have one person judging, and we're saying Masha also. What that which he has done is done. So one judge apparently works. So it's a kasha Rabbi Baba, but no. Here we're talking about where the litigants accepted the authority of this single judge. So because they accepted the authority of this single judge, so that is why the verdict is binding. But if not for the fact that they accepted his authority, then it would not be binding. Rabbi Baba would say, then you would need three judges. If that's the case, so if they accepted his authority, so then why does he have to pay out of pocket? They accepted his, whatever his verdict would be. His verdict is his verdict. Well, because what they said was, we accept you as a judge to judge us the law of the Torah. And therefore, if he does not rule according to the law of the Torah, well then, they didn't accept that, and he has to pay out of pocket. Omarle Rav Safar L'Rab Abba to B'mai. Now Rav Safar asked Rav Abba, now 1 second, what was the nature of this mistake that would require him to pay out of pocket? If you're going to say that he made a mistake on something that was sort of objective, he was objectively wrong. The halacha is very clear that it's, let's say, that Reuven can keep the $1,000, but he ruled that Reuven has to pay Shimon $1,000. Like there's no machlokas. It's just very clear that he paskined incorrectly. Well, if that's the case, that if you make a mistake that is obviously, it's just simply not in accordance with the clearly stated law, well then it's choser, right? It reverts, right? So if he paskin that Reuven has to pay Shimon, but it's clear that that's not true, so Shimon's got to give the money back to Reuven. So then the judge would not have to pay out of pocket. So why is he paying out of pocket? El Dita b'shikol adas. He made a mistake with shikol adas. He made a mistake. Hey, chidam b'shikol adas. What is shikol adas? Amar Papa says, a Papa could go on, for example, trei tanoi v'trei amaroi. If you have two tanoim or two amaroi, depligi adode. It's machlokes tanoim, machlokes amaroi. But the halacha is not clearly paskins like either one of them. So it's not clear what the final halacha is. But it's understood that we paskin like one of them. It's not explicit that one is right, but it's understood that we paskin like that one. But he, the judge, paskin like the other one. So now it's a shikol adas. That's shikol adas. So now in this case, it's that's why he has to pay out of pocket. Why? Because on the one hand, so he says that Reuven has to pay Shimon $1,000. Now the thing is, according to one opinion, he's right. According to the other opinion, he's wrong. But the generally accepted opinion is like the one that would say that Reuven can keep the $1,000. So on the one hand, he can't say to Shimon, give Reuven back the $1,000, because Shimon's going to say, well, you paskin to me. You paskin like a valid opinion. Right? Clearly, right? We said the halacha is not clear. We don't clearly paskin like one or the other. It's generally accepted that it's like one of them, and the one that is generally accepted like is that Reuven would keep it. However, the judge paskin that it goes that way, he awarded it to Shimon. Now you can't take it away from Shimon, because Shimon's going to say, look, what you paskin is a valid opinion, so I'm keeping the money. But at the same time, like the generally accepted opinion is that Reuven really should be able to keep that money, so he has to pay out of pocket in that case. Okay, but be'etzem though, at the end of the day, Rabbi Bo would say, look, we're talking about a scenario where these litigants accepted the ruling, the authority of this single judge. But by default, Rabbi Bo would argue that you would need 3 judges. Okay, fine. Lema kitanoi. Let us say that this machlokes between Rabbi Bo and Shmuel about do you need 3 judges and 2 judges is no good, like Rabbi Bo, or does 2 judges work, but it's called a Bezdin Chotzu. Let's say that it's a machlokes tanoim. Bitzua bishlosha divrei Meir, says Rabbi Meir that pshara is with 3 judges. V'chachamim pshara b'yachid, whereas the chachamim say pshara is with 1 judge. Let me just check up something. Okay, fine. Okay, fine. Okay, where are we? Then we get to know Bitzua b'shloshah divrei Meir v'chachamim pshara b'yachid. So chachamim said pshara is with 1 judge. Savudu chuliyam makshinim pshara l'din. And we want to say that both Reb Meir and the Chacham agree, makshinim pshara l'din, that we compare pshara to din. Rashi points out there's a pasuk that says mishpat u'tztaka, and therefore we compare mishpat, which is din, and tztaka, which is pshara. So in the comments, dzeu bitzua alma. Okay, fine. Okay, where's that? Oh, Amud Beis. Okay. Anyways, pshara b'yachid savudu chulama makshinon pshara l'din. So let's say that both Reb Meir and the Chacham say that we compare pshara to din. Okay, and therefore my lab b'akamifagei that my sover din b'shlosha, that Reb Meir says that din is with shlosha, and that's why pshara is b'shlosha, and that would be like Rabbi Bo, who says that everybody agrees that din is b'shlosha. My sover din b'shnayim, and the Chacham say that you don't need 3 for a Bezdin. Right? That you don't need 3 for a Bezdin. You can even have 2, like Shmuel says. Lo. Right, so meaning if you say a din is b'shnayim, right, so then we're not comparing, right, and we don't, where are we? Oh yeah, okay, fine. Makshim b'shar din, okay, fine. And therefore you don't need 3 judges, and I guess therefore you could say that pshara doesn't need 3 judges. All it needs is, I guess once you don't need 3, I guess all you need is 1 for pshara. Anyways, lo. And therefore that would be like Shmuel says that 2 technically works by din. Lo duchuli alma din b'shlosha. No, everybody agrees that din is b'shlosha. We could say everyone agrees that din is b'shlosha. V'hacha b'akamifagei. Here the question dafka is to myself makshinim pshara l'din. Reb Meir says that we compare pshara to din, and therefore just like din is with 3, so pshara is also by 3. Whereas the Chacham say that we don't compare pshara to din, and therefore while din is b'shlosha, pshara doesn't need shlosha. 1 is enough. So let's say that there are 3 opinions when it comes to pshara. 1 second. Sorry for that noise. Let's say that there are 3 opinions when it comes to pshara. The Ma'asav of b'shlosha, Reb Meir says 3 judges for pshara. Ma'asav of b'shnayim, Reb Shimon Gamliel, as I reminded us earlier, holds that pshara is with 2 judges. Myself b'yachid, whereas the Chacham say pshara is with 1 judge. Amar of Acha brei deriv ika v'tim Rav Yemar by Shlami Amanda Amar trei afilu chad nami. According to Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, it says that pshara is with 2. Technically speaking, pshara could also be with 1. But the reason why Reb Shimon Gamliel says that pshara should be done with 2 judges, so that they can also work as judges, right? Because it's not a bezdin, so if it's not a proper bezdin, but at least if there are 2 of them, they could work as judge. They could work as, because it's for pshara, and it's only 2, so it's not a bezdin. But they could work as witnesses. They'll be witnesses to the pshara, and it's betzim like a matana, like a gift. One of them is, they're agreeing to kind of make this agreement, and then you have the 2 judges will serve as witnesses. Amar Rav Ashi says, Rav Ashi shmamina pshara netzricha kinyan, and says Rav Ashi that we see that pshara does not require a kinyan to make it official. Because if we say that pshara does require a kinyan to make it official, well then why would Reb Meir say that you need 3 judges for pshara? If you have to make a kinyan anyways, so 2 should be enough. They'll make a kinyan. It's official. Why would Reb Meir say that you need 3 judges? But nonetheless, Vilchsa Pshara Tzricha Kinyan. Still, the halacha is that Pshara does require a Kinyan. That when it comes to arbitration, when the litigants make a deal, so we would have to make a Kinyan to make it official. Okay, it's good to know. Okay, we learn in the Brisa, just like a din is with 3, arbitration is also with 3 judges. Nigmar din, this is important, Cheveh, because this is going to be important for the next chunk of Gemara. Nigmar adin, yatarasha livtzoa. So according to this opinion, we're going to see 3 opinions and some other opinions when it comes to Pshar. We're going to talk a whole bunch now about Pshar. So when it comes to Pshar, to arbitration, the litigants can choose to do arbitration up until the verdict, as we're going to see at the very bottom of this Amud. Ish ploni atachayv, ish ploni atazakai. That is the verdict. Up until that point, the litigants can decide, forget it, we're leaving court. We're going to settle this outside of court. That is this opinion. We're about to see another opinion that says once they get to court, it's too late. They can no longer do arbitration. We're going to see an opinion a little bit later on that they could do arbitration up until a certain point during the proceedings, which is meaning once there's kind of the dayanim kind of know which direction the case is going. Up until that point, they could do a pshara, but not after that point. So we're going to see different opinions here. This opinion is that they can do pshara up until the verdict. Okay, Sarmash, Bankash, Siman. L'chaim. Rabbi Eliezer ben Rabbi Yossi Aglili Omer Azoy. Says Rabbi Eliezer ben Rabbi Yossi Aglili, Osur livtzoa, that once the litigants come to Bezdin, they can no longer opt to do pshara anymore. V'chol abotzeya, and if they do pshara, once they already come to Bezdin, they're sinning. And if you bless such a thing, if you praise people who do pshara after they've already come to Bezdin, meaning even before the verdict, but once they've come to Bezdin, you are blaspheming if you praise someone who did pshara after they already came to Bezdin. And on this they say, if you bless someone who does pshara once they came to Bezdin, but even if it's before the verdict, Ni'etz Hashem, you are blaspheming God. Rather, once they come to Bezdin, we made the judgment uproot the mountain or something like that. I don't know, or burrow through the mountain. But basically, once they come to Bezdin, we do the din, the judgment. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Ki hamishpat le'lekim hu, because the judgment is for God. Okay, I guess that implies that we do the judgment. Moshe would also say, we do the judgment. Aval, Aharon, but Aharon oyev shalom v'roidev shalom. Aharon though, he would love peace, and he would chase after peace. And if he knew that people had something between them and they had to go to Bezdin, before they would go to Bezdin, he would chase after them and say, hey, why don't you make a pshara? Umeisim shalom ben odom lachaveru, and he would make peace between the people. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Teras emes hoyse befiu, that the Torah of truth was in his mouth. Ve'avla le'nimtza b'sfasov, and no, crookedness or badness was on his lips. Bishalim, with peace. Uvemishor, straightness. Holach iti, he walked with me. He ambulated with me. Right, Dennis? Although I think you've pointed out that to ambulate is, I think, antiquated. Alright. We're learning kind of antiquated stuff. Well, it's still relevant today. It's alive and well today, but it's pretty old. It's old and new at the same time. And he brought back many people to do tshuva from sin. And then the pasuk continues there. Where's this in Malachi? Ki sifsei koin yishmuru das v'torah yivaksh mepiu. Right, this is ki malach elokim tzvako yisu or something. And therefore, that's how we know it's a reference to Aharon. Okay, Azoy. Now, okay. So according to Rabbi Eliezer ben Rabbi Yossi Aglili, once they come to Bezdin, Osir live tzoya. Rabbi Eliezer, almost says Rabbi Eliezer, in explaining that pasuk of Botzei Berech Nietz Hashem, Omer Areisha Gozel Soya Shalchitim, if a person steals a sa'a of wheat, v'tachana, and he grinds up the wheat, v'afa'a, and he bakes the wheat, v'vish mimena chala, and he separates from the wheat chala. Keitzad mevarich, how could you make a bracha on that? Ein ze mevarich. This is not blessing, eliminate. It's blaspheming. You steal, and then you want to make a bracha on stolen bread? Oy favoy. And this the pasuk says, if you steal and then bless, Ne'etz Hashem, you're blaspheming God. Reb Meir says, Reb Meir, lo nemer botzei ele k'neged Yehuda. Azoy. That's taka this week's parsha, no? I'm in when I'm recording this, it's taka Vayeshev. When I'm recording the week of Parshas Vayeshev, when I'm recording, I think Vayeshev is when. Why not? Vayishlach, Vayetze, Vayishlach, Vayeshev. I think it's Vayeshev. Azoy. Keneged Yehuda shenemar Vayomer Yehuda el Echov, says Yehuda to his brethren, Ma betza. What benefit we have ki narog es achinu, if we kill our brother Joseph, Yehuda, and anybody who blesses Yehuda, he is blaspheming. And this it says, somebody who blesses the Botseya, the one who said Ma betza ki narog es achinu, Ne'etz Hashem, you are blaspheming God. Okay. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, says Rabbi Shua ben Karcha mitzvah livtzoa. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Rabbi Yossi Aglili said also livtzoa. Says Rabbi Shua ben Karcha mitzvah livtzoa. We're gonna have to understand exactly what that means, but okay, it's a mitzvah to do pshar. Shneimar, the pasuk says, emes umishpat shalom shiftu b'shareichem. Truth and a judgment of peace shall you judge in your gates. Now, what does it mean, mishpat shalom? It's an oxymoron. A mishpat shalom? Mishpat is din. Mishpat is, Reuven, you are required to pay $1,000 to Shimon. That's not shalom. That's not peace. That's not love. That's harsh. That's hard stuff. Mishpat ain't shalom. Shalom ain't mishpat. I don't associate mishpat with shalom or shalom with mishpat. What is a mishpat that has shalom? That's compromise. Right? When it comes to compromise, hopefully, ideally, you get to a scenario where everybody's happy. Right? You say, everyone kind of comes to an agreement, comes to an understanding, and they kind of and they leave peacefully. Everyone. They compromise. You give, you get. Similarly, by King David, it says, that King David would make mishpat and staka for his nation, for the entire nation. But where there's mishpat, there's no staka, right? Mishpat and staka. Mishpat is Reuven, you have to pay Shimon $1,000. Stock is fakert, is giving somebody money, not telling them that they have to pay somebody else. So mishpat ain't stock. If it's stock, ain't mishpat. Elezu mishpat sheish but stock. What is a mishpat that also has stock? Haveyomer zebitzur. That is arbitration, compromise, coming to an understanding. But now, what about according to Eliezer ben Rabbi Yossi Aglili, who says also livtzor? So what does he do with this pasuk that we just brought these pasukim to say mitzvah livtzor, right? Mishpat shalom, mishpat utstaka, right? So if you say though asur livtzor, so then how do you explain this pasuk? Here we're talking about the virtues of bitzur. But if you say that also livtzoas, then what do you do with this pasuk? So Asan Tanakama, Donis Adin, Zika es Azaka, that according to Tanakama says also livtzoa. So Mishpat Utstaka is for a scenario of Donis Adin, that if, I believe King David, if he judged a case, Zika es Azaka v'chiv es achayev, and Ruvain, Shimon is innocent, Kilu Shimon is awarded $1,000, Ruvain is required to pay Shimon $1,000. Right, Shimon is awarded $1,000, Ruvain is chayiv to pay Shimon $1,000. Roshan is chayiv oni mamin, but King David saw that chaval. I get it. Ruvain owes Shimon $1,000. There's nothing we can do about that. But Ruvain can't really afford to pay Shimon $1,000. So there's a stock opportunity here. So King David would pay Ruvain $1,000. Kilu. Sure, Ruvain needs to pay Shimon $1,000. Shimon is owed $1,000 and he rightfully gets the $1,000. But at the same time, Ruvain doesn't have the $1,000 to pay, so King David would give the $1,000 to Ruvain. That is, one second. Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. That is Mishpat Utstaka. V'shilem lo mitoch beso. King David would pay out of his own pocket. Ze Mishpat Utstaka. It's judgment and charity. Mishpat lazev Utstaka lazeh. Judgment for Shimon that he gets his $1,000, and staka for Ruvain that he receives $1,000 of staka. Mishpat lazeh she'echzeh lo mamun. It's judgment for Shimon who got his money, who got the money that he's owed. With staka lazeh, and it's charity for Ruvain sheshilim lo mitoch beso, that King David paid charity to Ruvain. Kashale l'Rebbe, but Rebbe has trouble with this explanation. What does it mean that this is mishpat utztaka l'chol amo, for his entire nation? It's not for the entire nation, it's only for the poor people. Rather, even if King David didn't pay Ruvain out of his own pocket, even if he didn't give charity to Ruvain, it's still mishpat utztaka. Mitzvah lazeh, mitzvah lazeh, mishpat lazeh she'echzeh lo mamono. So it's judgment, it's mishpat for Shimon who got his money that he's owed. Utztaka lazeh, and it's still tztaka for Ruvain. Even if King David doesn't pay him tztaka out of his own pocket, it's still tztaka for Ruvain she'otzi gzela mitachas yado. That it's still beneficial to Ruvain. That clearly there was $1,000 that didn't belong to him that he had, and that's bad. And it's bad that he has this money that doesn't belong to him, that really belongs to Shimon. And because Shimon was awarded $1,000, so that was charity for Ruvain that he no longer has. Right? It's beneficial to Ruvain in that Ruvain no longer has theft in his possession. Okay. Azoi, we're going to see Taka on tomorrow's daf, right? An interesting thing like this as well, that if a person leaves Bezdin and the mamish took the shirt off of his back, he should still be singing a niggin because he's happy that at least he no longer has any theft in his possession. Does Rashi quote this here? No. Okay, fine. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we've seen the opinion of the Tanakama, which is that you can do pshara up until the verdict. At any point up until the verdict, you could still do pshara. We saw the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer ben Rabbi Yossi Aglili, who says that once they come to Bezdin, they can no longer do pshara. And now we're going to have the opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh, who says that up to a point they can do pshara. Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh almost says, Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh, Shnaim Shabbat lefanech ladin, that if two litigants come to Bezdin, ad shelo tishma divrei, so prior to hearing their arguments, or mishatishma divrei, and even once you hear their arguments, but you still don't know in which direction things are going, things are landing. You can still say to them, people, you could still arbitrate, you could still come to an agreement on your own, amongst yourselves. But but once already you hear the arguments and you know that, okay, it looks like probably Shimon is going to be awarded the $1,000, well then, at that point already you can no longer say to them, go out and make an agreement amongst yourselves. Shneimar Zbaz says, Poter mayim reishis madon. that what does Rashi say? Poterai in basel liftor lahashlich hamariva hamashula kemayim kidukam veloshim shalom benem reishis madum kodem shetisa v'titim bedin potorosa. Okay. Poter mayim reishis madun. Okay. So basically, if there's a machlokes, okay, if there's a machlokes, right? Like mayim is a reference to machlokes. Poter, and you want to resolve the machlekes, reishis madun, and they come to court. Velifnei is gala ariv, so long as you don't yet know in which direction the fight is going, kilu, who's going to be innocent, who's going to be guilty, nitosh. Kodem shenis gala ariv, atiyachol inatsho. That you can discard the case and say, why don't you go arbitrate up until the point where it becomes, you start getting an indication of who's going to be guilty and who's going to be innocent. However, once it's clear which direction things are going, that it looks like, it's looking in Shimon's favor, well then they can no longer abandon the din and make a pshara. At that point, they have to move ahead with the din and see who's right and who's wrong. Okay, apparently this is Reb Yoshua ben Lakish. Who's Reb Yoshua ben Lakish? Apparently there's also an opinion that maybe it's Reb Yehuda ben Lakish. I don't know. Who are these people? I don't know. Let's go with Reb Yoshua ben Lakish. Reb Yoshua ben Lakish Omer says, Reb Yoshua ben Lakish, Shnaim shabau ladin. If two people come to Bezdin, two litigants, Echad rach ve'echad kosher. One is a sweet guy, one is the opposite. He's a bolvan. Well, look, if they haven't yet said anything, or if you don't know yet, in whose favor the din is leaning, you could say to them, I don't want to be part of this bezdin. 1 second. Okay. Yeah, okay, fine. But where am I? Because after all, if the bolvan is guilty, the bolvan is going to make the judge's life very unpleasant. But once you hear their arguments, and you see in which direction the case is leaning, you can no longer say to them, I don't want to be part of this case. I don't want to adjudicate on this case. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Lo saguru mipnei ish. Don't fear anybody. Once already you've committed to judging the case, then you got to move forward, and you can't be scared of the bolvan. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha Omer, says Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, Minayin letalmid sheyoshev lifnei rabbi. How do you know that if you have a student who's sitting before his Rebbe, and he sees that his Rebbe is leaning to say that the wealthy person is innocent and the poor person is guilty, but the student sees that that's not right. Really, it's the poor person who's innocent, and it's the wealthy person who's guilty. Minayin Shelo Yishtok. How do we know that the student should not keep that to himself, that he should say something to his Rebbe? Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Lo saguru mipnei ish. Rabbi Chanan Omer says, Lo sachnis tevarech mipnei ish. Don't gather in your words from a person. Don't keep it to yourself. Rather, you must express that, in fact, the poor person is innocent and the wealthy person is guilty. And judges and witnesses should know, and when witnesses show up to court, they should know who are they really testifying about. They're really testifying about Hashem. And before who are they testifying? Testifying before Hashem. And who is going to punish them if they are dishonest? Hashem. Shneimah says, "Va'amdu shnei ha'anashim," that the two people, and that's referring to the two witnesses, Ashaloim ariv lifnei Hashem, before God. And as we're going to learn tomorrow, that be'etzem, if these witnesses are liars and they because of their testimony, Reuven now has to pay $1,000 to Shimon. Now Hashem needs to kind of figure out, okay, how are we going to get that money back to Reuven? and it's ahead. So witnesses are testifying not just on this case, but actually they're testifying about Hashem, because ultimately it becomes Hashem's responsibility to then make sure that Reuven gets that money back, and in front of Hashem, and also Hashem is going to punish them if they are being inappropriate. And the same thing for the judges. They should know, as mi'ein danin, who are they really judging? And before whom are they judging? And who's going to punish them if they are inappropriate in their judgments? It says that God stands in the Eidah. I don't know, basically they're judging before, right? That basically God is involved in the judgments. Similarly, it says by Yoshaphat, he says to the judges, see what you are doing. You aren't judging a person, you're judging Hashem, because ultimately Hashem is going to make sure that justice is carried out. Then maybe the judge is going to say, okay, why do I need this headache? I'm going to be a judge, I'm going to make a mistake, and now I'm going to get punished for it. Well, what do I need it for? Therefore the Pasuk says, Ve'imchem b'dvar mishpat, and with you in judgment. Ein lo l'dayin elo ma she'einav ro'os. That a judge can only work with what he sees. He has to make the proper judgment based on the evidence that is available to him, based on the information available to him. And if it turns out that based on the information available to him, he was not able, based on that information, to arrive at the correct verdict, and now Hashem has to sort of make sure that justice is served. It's not his fault, if he kind of made the most accurate decision based on what was available to him, right? The judge just needs to work with what he has, what is available to him. And as long as he works with that in a proper manner, then he's okay. In fact, the Gemara, what's considered Gemar Din, the end of the judgment? Amr V'Yehuda Marav, says V'Yehuda Marav, Ish Ploni Atachai Vish Ploni Atazakai. Reuven, you're guilty. Shimon, you're innocent. Reuven, you have to pay $1,000 to Shimon. Amar Rab says, that the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon Korcha, that mitzvah livtzoah, that it's a mitzvah to make a pshar. Ini, is that really true? Rav Huna tamidid the Rav Hava. Rav Huna, of course, was Rav's student. Kava also the comment of Rav Huna, and when litigants would come before Rav Huna, Amrlu, he says to them, Idina be'isu, pshar be'isu. Do you want a din? Do you want a court case? Or do you want a pshar? Do you want arbitration? Kilu. Either one works. Now, if Rav Huna's Rebbe Rav said that mitzvah l'tzah, why would he say either one is great? Say, really, you should do bitzua. That's the mitzvah, is to do bitzua. But he gave them the option. My mitzvah nami dekam Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, mitzvah l'meim relahu, idina be'isu, ibshar be'isu. No, what Rav is saying, so what does it mean that when Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, that Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha says it's a mitzvah livtzoah, it's a mitzvah to offer bitzua. That when litigants come, and they say, look, we have this trouble between us, it's a mitzvah to say, well, do you want a din or do you want bitzua? That's the mitzvah. Hainu Tana Kama. So now this would be the Tana Kama. Okay, fine. So now, okay, if that's the case, then that's the same thing as Tana Kama. What did Tana Kama say? Tana Kama said that up until, right, meaning here we have a scenario. People came to Bezdin. Rav Huna was offering them to do bitzua. So that's like the Tana Kama who says that you can do bitzua up until the verdict. So they would come to Bezdin, you would say, look, you could do bitzua. According to Rabbi Eliezer ben Yossi Aglili, once you come to Bezdin, you can no longer also do bitzua. But, okay, here we're saying that it's a mitzvah to offer them when they come to Bezdin to do bitzua. So that's like the Tana Kama. Okay. So Ika Benayu, mitzvah. Well, the difference between Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha and Tanna Kama is whether it's a mitzvah or not. According to Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, it is a mitzvah to offer them to do bitzua. According to Tanna Kama, it's completely up to the bezdin to offer bitzua, but there's no mitzvah to offer it. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha sovereign mitzvah. Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha holds that it's a mitzvah to offer bitzua. Where am I? Okay, mitzvah. Tanna Kama sovereign rishus, whereas Tanna Kama says it's purely optional to offer bitzua. Hainu Reb Shimon ben Menasya. Okay, but then this is Be'etzem Reb Shimon ben Menasya, who also, what does Reb Shimon ben Menasya say? Reb Shimon ben Menasya Omer, Shnayim Shabbat Lefnei Chadin, Azot Zmedvei, Mitzvah Zmedvei, Yodei Lechadin, Ata Rashai, Lomer Len Suavitu. You're permitted to say, go and make a pshara. So it's Rishus. Tanna Kama is also saying it's a Rishus. Well, the difference is that Tanna Kama says that it's a rishus to offer them bitzua all the way up until the verdict, whereas Reb Shimon ben Menashe says it's only until you know in which direction the verdict is leaning. Now, going back to earlier, that pasuk, we saw a few different explanations. It could be talking about pshara, it could be talking about Yehuda, it could be talking about stealing wheat and making it bread. Now we're going to see another opinion. That this pasuk of Botzei Berech Nitz Hashem is referring to the Maisa Egel. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Vayar Aharon Vayiven Mizbeach Lefonav. That in the context of the Chet Egel, it says that Aharon saw and he built a mizbeach, an altar, before him. What did Aharon see? Vayar Aharon vayiven mizbeach. What did he see? Omer Binyamin bar Yefes, Omer Balazar, Ra'achur. He saw Chur. Who is Chur? Was it his brother-in-law or something? I don't know. He saw Chur, shezavuach lefanav, who was, they killed Chur Pasha. They slaughtered him. Vayiven mizbeach lefanav, vayiven mizavuach lefanav. He saw Chur that they slaughtered him. If I don't listen to them, they're gonna kill me too, like they killed Chur. And they'll be Mekayim the pasuk Ye'arig b'mikdash Hashem kohen v'novi. That if they kill in the temple of God a kohen and a novi, I'm a kohen and a novi, says Aharon. They're never going to be able to have any kind of tshuva, any kind of fixing. Mutav deli abdu le'egel efshav lehu takanta b'tshuva. Aharon made this kind of compromise. Okay, look, on the one end, if I don't let them, they're going to kill me. So if I just kind of let them do the egel, at least he made a cheshbon, at least in the future they could do tshuva. And therefore, that was the pshara that he made, that was the bitzua that he made. And Botzei Berech, if you bless that pshara, that cheshbon that Aharon made, Nitz Hashem, you're blaspheming the Ribboni Shalom. V'hani tanai poter mayim reishis modun my darshibe. Okay, now getting back to the pasuk of poter mayim reishis modun. According to Reb Shimon ben Menashe, he says l'fnei is gal arib notchel. Did I read that correctly? Nitosh. So Reb Shimon ben Menashe says l'fnei is gal arib nitosh, that you can do, they can abandon the judgment, you can do pshara up until you know in which direction the din is leaning. But not after that. According to the other opinions who disagree with Reb Shimon ben Menashe, how do they understand that pasuk? Like Rav Amnuna, Damar Rav Amnuna, en tchilas dinoi shel adam nidoin ela al divrei Torah. That then the olam emes, after Mei Besim Shana, when a person goes to Wellwood, so they ask him, not in Wellwood but in Shamayim, they ask him, no, did you listen to Babylon Talmud? Did you learn Torah? Shenemar, as Paul says, poter mayim. If a person mayim, right? Hoi kol tzomei l'chula mayim. Torah, a person who does not learn Torah, reishis modon, that is going to be the first thing that they're going to judge him about. Amar Avuna says, Avuna, I tigra, a fight, is dami l'tzinora de bidka, is like a like a channel. What's a bidka? Of like a stream or something? The bidka damya. Basically, if you have like some kind of channel of water and the water overflows, so it starts off as like a little crack, but if you don't quickly, plug it up, it's just gonna quickly expand and overflow, right? And that's like what a fight is like. It starts with like a little sichsuch, but then it spreads and it spreads and it spreads until there's like, until it's just like unsolvable. So good to solve fights early and quickly. Resolve them. Fine. Kevin the Ravach, once it expands, it's very expanded. Abai Kshisha Amar says, Abai Kshisha Dami Leguda de Gamla. It's like a plank in a bridge. Kevin the come. Like either when you have a new plank, so it's still a little bit loose, but then after it's been there over time and people are stepping on it and traveling on it, then it kind of gets put, permanently put into place. And, so you can have that with a fight as well. That kilo once already, it just goes unresolved for long enough, it just becomes established as fact that there's just this fight. So you don't want to do that. You want to resolve it as early as possible. That was the Vav of Masechta Sanhedrin. Very interesting stuff. We saw the machlokas between Shmuel and Rabbi Bo about can two judges judge? I imagine this is talking about Hodos Vavos. But anyways, although I think it's a whole shaila, the easiest way to understand it would probably be by Odos Vavos. But anyways, Shmuel says that two work, but it's called a Bezdin Chotzuf. And Rabbo says two does not work. And then we started talking about Pshara. We saw different machlokes in about, do you need 3 judges, 2 judges, 1 judge for Pshara. We saw different opinions about until what point can you make a Pshara. Tanakam says up until the verdict. Rav Shimon ben Menashe says up until you know which direction the din is going. Rabbi Eliezer ben Rabbi Yossi HaGlili says once they come to Bezdin, it's too late to do a Pshara. So the opinion of Rav Shimon Karchos is a mitzvah to offer them to make a Pshara. And we saw some other interesting things like, for example, the judges and the witnesses, they're really judging in front of God, about God, right? And we'll learn a little bit more about that tomorrow. Some very interesting stuff on the Vav of Masechta Sanhedrin. Peace out.